This is Justin Lubino with Senior Advisors. And on today's episode of Coffee with Justin, we have Terry Kent, who's been a client of ours since 2017. And we're excited to have Terry on the call with us today. Thank you, Terry, for joining us.
Great. Excited to be here.
All right. So we start out these calls, Terry, with our coffee questions. And the first question we have is what's your kind of preferred or go-to, coffee, either brand or type that you like to drink on a daily basis?
Yeah, well, it comes from, being in an office environment for decades, so I got hooked on the ease of using, these pods, like the Keurig. So I actually had to buy one for the house, after I semi-retired and had it in there. So most of the coffee we drink is a variety of things that, fit in the, the pod machine.
Okay. Yeah, those are convenient. Those are nice and convenient.
They're nice and convenient, and over the years they've started to expand on the brands that actually have them there. So it's good.
Dark roast or light roast?
Well, that also depends on what's available in the little pod holder. I like dark roast. So that's my preference. Black mostly.
Got it. Same here. I like it black coffee too.
Yep.
How many cups a day generally for you?
That's another interesting transition, when you go from an office environment, where you're walking around and the coffee machine's there and you get a cup and you go back to your desk or your office. I probably back then was having, 5 cups a day. Now it's probably 1 or 2,
Okay.
down to that.
Got it. And if you could sit down, have a cup of coffee with anyone, you could choose anybody. Who would you choose to sit down with?
Well, it depends on past or present, right? So if it was past, I'd pick Neil Armstrong. I was a big fan growing up of the space program and watched in awe as he landed on the moon, and then over the years I've followed the story of actually how difficult that was and the risks associated with it. So I just like to talk to the guy that was the first on the moon. And I guess if it was today, I thought about that a little bit, and if it was today, it would probably be Bill Gates. Would be one of my top choices. Again, I'm a technophile, by heart. And he's affected, just about every business on the planet. And, I just love to see what he's doing, today, whether or not it be global healthcare or hunger, or now climate change, right? So that's his big thing. So I would just like to say, I thought about Elon Musk. I don't know. He could be a little eccentric to sit down with coffee with. He'd probably be fascinating just to see what's in his mind. But I think I'd stick with Bill if I only had one choice.
Good answers. I like the Armstrong one and the Gates. I'd probably go Musk over Gates, just because I'd be curious to hear what would come out of his mouth, because he's
we'd be living in Mars. We'd be living on Mars if that was the case. I think he's getting geared to take his family there.
Right. Nice. Very cool. All right. So speaking of family, maybe if you could share just a little bit on your family and, spouse and kids, any grandkids, if you could share with the audience.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. I married my high school sweetheart, 47 years ago. I had to think about that, probably together for 50. And her name is Donna. And it's been great. We have 2 sons, Ryan, who's about 40, getting out 40, and he works for the Gartner Group, as a manager, but he also is an entrepreneur and has his own line of men's accessories, primarily socks. So his company's called Soxfords.
Oh, cool.
Soxfords, and that's his passion, by the way.
Nice.
And we have a younger son, Patrick, who's 35. He works, for a search engine optimizing company. Not to get in what that is, but that's what he does. And he's married, to a lovely woman named Stephanie, who works for Google. And they were living in Brooklyn. And after the pandemic hit, they asked if they could come live with us because she was pregnant and she had her baby, not in the house, but here, Archer, baby Archer. So he's 5 months old now.
Nice.
And I have three other grandchildren by Ryan. I've got Brody and Mackenzie, who are twins. So a
Cool.
boy and girl. They're 8 years old. And, we have another grandson, Everett, who's a precocious 6-year-old who wants to be 8 years old. So
Very nice. Very nice. So that's interesting. The socks business, does he design them and then, he gets them, how does the business work generally? Is it?
yeah. So, it's soup to nuts, right? So he designs the socks and comes up with the ideas and the patterns. And then he basically has them made. He does ties and socks and accessories, like cufflinks and stuff, but mostly socks. And he comes up with, theme oriented things and a little story behind them. And his business model is online and I guess you would call it trade shows, right? So
And again, that was socksfords.com.
socksforwards.com. Anybody watching this can buy a pair, help pay for the grandkids' education.
Very nice. Very nice. And then your other son, that's interesting. So he works for an SEO company and his wife works for Google. So that's a nice little on the biggest impactor of SEO being Google. So that's
Absolutely. But they didn't meet via business, they just met socially at a bar somewhere. So
nice. Interesting connection there. Cool.
Yep.
All right. Any particular hobbies that keep you busy these days? Are you still working or?
Well, I still consult. We'll talk about that. Fishing's my bigger hobby. I live on the lake here in New Jersey, so I have boats, and so I do love to fish. I take fishing trips every year to the Salmon River for steelhead trout with my sons, and every year to the Florida Keys, with some buddies of mine, to go mahi fishing. And in between, I fish, when I can. Just a little anecdote, there was a time when I would get up early in the morning and I'd have my suit and tie when we all wore suit and ties, and I'd be down at the dock. And one day I just turned around and fell right off into the water. So, and it was
fully suit and tie and everything in the
fully
water?
suit and tie. Actually, I guess I had a cell phone back then, but I kept it up. So it was before they made them waterproof, but in any event.
You need a picture of that.
Yeah. So I like to fish, and I also collect pre-war Lionel trains.
Okay.
I think I have every train made between 1945 and 49 from Lionel. So that's a big hobby.
You mentioned you're on a lake. Are you up north in what lake are you on?
Yeah, it's Lake Apacon.
Okay, I thought it would have been what's the other one? Mohawk up there, Lake Mohawk.
Mohawk is right near us. It's a few miles north of here. Apacon is a lot bigger than Lake Mohawk. In fact, I think it's the biggest lake in New Jersey. But again, it's New Jersey, right? So
yeah. No, I got married on Lake Mohawk at the Mohawk.
Oh, you did? My son Patrick got married on Lake Mohawk.
Beautiful place.
It's right on the beach.
Yep. Very nice.
Right in front of the clubhouse.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right. So just to shift a little bit into, you've had an amazing career and obviously you're still consulting. Maybe just share a little bit with the audience about your background from a, work perspective and what you used to do.
It's not all that exciting, but it probably is one of those things where, what do you decide when you want to decide your career and what you want to be when you grow up? So I started off, like I said, with Neil Armstrong. I wanted to be in the space program. So I was actually, going to be an astronautical engineer, and I went to the Florida Institute of Technology and everything else. But I was dating my wife to be, who was in New Jersey. And at that time, in 1970, the space program was winding down, right? They had sent someone to the moon, funds were cut. So I decided to be an environmental engineer. So I transferred up to Lehigh University, which was closer to where my wife was. And I graduated with a degree from Lehigh in environmental engineering. Got my first job as that, but then didn't realize I didn't quite fit in. I couldn't fit the pencil protector in my pocket. So so I met a guy one time who was in the software business and database management software, did that. joined Dun and Bradstreet and was an executive there, with, the plethora of databases they have. Through acquisitions, met a Dutch company that was investing in the U.S. and was one of the principal advice. And that industry was primarily media and marketing information, right? So, like, think Nielsen, right? So audience data. And in fact, I was involved in the acquisition of Nielsen as one of the principals, for this Dutch company. And, over the years, I stayed in that industry, must have run dozens of companies or oversaw dozens of companies here and overseas, both Asia, Europe, Brazil, in South America. So did a lot of travel. In fact, well, it's over 1 million miles now I have, on the airline. So they let me go on first, but
Nice.
but in any event, it was very career, very, very interesting, culturally, to see all these, different countries and, what they watch, what they wear, what they eat, and, what affects those viewing habits and buying habits. And it was a lot of fun.
So
And, I retired in 65 when I was 65, and then we'll get to,
Yep.
how we got introduced. I retired when I was 65, but, I just couldn't sit home, play with my trains and go fishing all the time. So I opened up a consulting practice, and it's just me, and I work mostly through word of mouth, and it's startup, early phase companies, looking help to get to that next phase of growth, either through investments or strategic, partners. And I've been having a lot of fun doing that. A lot of entrepreneurs and innovative people that really aren't yet, at that point where they know how to run a company or organize themselves. But so that's been a lot of fun. And, that's my day.
That's quite a career, quite a background there. Yeah, I'm curious. You mentioned the 1 million miles and kind of traveling all over the world. Is there, a particular country or experience that you remember is kind of most memorable, or in that time?
I mean, so the country I love to travel, and the city I love to travel most is Paris. I had, a couple of companies in Paris that I had to visit. I have a lot of friends in Paris. I don't speak French. In fact, I don't speak anything but English poorly.
Well, I
Which
hear
is always,
the food is terrible there, right?
yeah, the food and the wine, you can't drink the wine. But I made it, I made a lot of friends, and, but they eat foods, that are a little too exotic, for me sometimes. So, I'm still a basic, steak and potatoes guy, although probably not the healthiest thing. Been to China, a few times. There, that's a whole other experience. I remember I tried to order something on the menu that, wasn't alive or wasn't a body part I couldn't identify. I said, that's it. I told my host, I said, I've only got 2 rules. I'm not going to eat anything that's still alive, and I'm not going to eat any body part that you don't tell me ahead of time what it is, right? Because there's all sorts of, and so they gave me, and they said, okay, and so I got drunken shrimp, and the thing is, okay, I like shrimp, and I could eat that, but they're still alive. They're moving, right? I mean, the alcohol kind of slows them down, but they're still alive. And so,
Oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't
yeah,
realize.
drunken, yeah.
Oh,
And they have all other things I wouldn't talk about
I
on.
guess you have to be drunken to eat them. That's why they call
Well,
it.
I guess, but but it, it's a lot of fun,
Okay.
traveling. So.
Cool. Very cool. So maybe just segue a little bit. You mentioned, you retired at
Mhm.
65, and you were able to connect with us. Just share maybe with the audience how you found us and what the experience was like working with senior advisors.
Sure, sure. So I have a tax firm and a financial planning firm called Nisavakia, here in close by where I live, and I've been dealing with them for decades. And they'd always give me good advice on taxes, and to some extent on financial planning. When it came time to retirement, and I had to start thinking about Social Security, or, do I take it now? Do I take it later? Does my wife, who didn't work as long, take it now? I mean, what? And they said, well, the best thing to do is to, get a professional that deals with Social Security. So they connected me with a guy named Ash Alawalia, who I think you know. I forget the name of his company. It was NSS something, NNS Partners,
NSP, NSP. Yeah, he's
NSP.
One Team Financial. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he was very helpful, step through, Social Security and how to apply for it, gave me great advice with options. And then it got time to start talking, because I think I was still on Cobra at the time from my previous company. And we got talking about Medicare. He says, "Oh, well, you should talk to Justin,
Mhm.
at Senior Advisors, and he can step you through, the options and what you should look for, and work through that." And that's how we met. So it was referral to a referral to a referral.
That's
So
right.
just like anything else in business, it was a network.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we work closely with Ash. He is the Social Security guru, as you know. That's a completely different system, and we get questions on it all the time. We tell people, look, we're the Medicare experts, right? We
Right.
we understand that inside out. Social Security is a completely different animal, and it's good to have guys like Ash that are truly expert in that field. So, and
Right.
we're kind of
Right.
the dynamic duo, Medicare and Social Security. So
Hand in hand.
that's
So
right. So
you
how's
got.
now you've been on Medicare a few years. How's the experience been with kind of the coverage and your experience working with us and so forth?
Yeah, well, I think, just to go back, the issue that I had, and again, I, always consider myself a relatively intelligent guy, at least, running hundreds of millions of dollars worth of companies and doing that. But then when it came, in going beyond Social Security, when it came to Medicare, it's like an alphabet soup, right? I mean, Medicare A and then B and then C, D and then F and G and supplements or advantage plans and then pharma, like dozens of pharma companies. So where do you go and how do you do that? So that was the primary uh, not only the primary reason for me to contact you, but the primary help, that you gave me through that process, to everything from helping sign up, to Medicare and getting through the form, and, going through the options on Advantage versus Plan Gs and then, getting into the pharma plans, extensive conversations on what medication I take and what does my wife take. And, oh, maybe you should be on this plan and your wife should be on that plan. And basically, every year since, just about, you've helped review the plans, make sure we're still on track. It's the right one. Has your medication changed?
Mhm.
So I think it's been great. The coverage we have now, the good news, once you get all this stuff set up, is in the background, right? Just like anything else. So, I can't say that. I mean, of course, I get monthly statements, but Aetna, is who I use for Plan G, and that's been used and works.
Yeah.
And the pharma plans are what they are.
Right.
So,
Right.
and my wife being diabetic, her medication is quite a bit different than mine, both from a variety and from expense. So.
Sure, sure. No, I appreciate that background for the audience and kind of how
Mhm.
we were able to help you. And you mentioned your wife, and we had that interesting situation. People, when you go on Medicare, obviously there's all the complexity of just like you just went through. When do you sign up? What differences between the different parts of Medicare, a supplement versus Advantage, and then that Part D drug plan. A lot of people, I think, underestimate the value of finding the right drug plan, and each year those plans change. And we reach out to make sure we get your latest drug list and rerun that drug analysis. We had that really interesting situation, I think, with one of your wife's medication when you first went on, where there was the cost of that drug and the dosage that it was in. It's a very common medication. That's a generic medication that a lot of people take. And for most people, based on their dosage, it's anywhere from $5 to $15 a month medication, and that's like the full retail cost, right? The dosage, for whatever reason, there's one particular dosage of that drug that was like $7,000 a month in retail costs for the same exact drug. It just happened to be 1,000 milligrams instead of 500 milligrams, right? And I remember that was a situation we ran into with when we were doing your drug analysis. And I think the solution, and it was kind of a combined team effort between the both of us. You came up with, well, if you can get the doctor to prescribe the 500 milligram twice, that's the same effect of the 1,000 milligram once, and it would be $30 a month instead of $7,000 a month in retail. Some of these pharma, I mean, the cost models and how they get away with some of these pricing, it just blows my mind. But I remember that I actually wrote a blog article, and it was a metformin was the medication, and just bizarre how they can charge, what is that, 20 times, 25 times the cost for a 1,000 milligram pill versus a 500 milligram pill of the exact same drug. It's bizarre.
It is crazy. And, typically you pay what you pay. And I would say most people aren't really looking at the, at the label on the, on the container they get, because then it has what the full retail price is, right? And you say, I can't understand that. How am I paying, $10 and it's, $1,000, It's worse when it says it's $1,000 and you pay $1,000.
Well, that's a great point, because when you're on that group health plan the whole time and you're getting that medication, you might just have a copay. It might be 20, 30, 50 bucks. Not realizing that, like, to your point, that the company insurance is actually paying that absurd amount of money. So that's what's, we see these premiums on these group health plans go up every year, a huge percentage. Yep. A lot of that is driven by these astronomical drug costs. So when you get on Medicare and you're paying more of the out-of-pocket cost on the drugs, you really start to identify those areas where you can reduce costs and, for the same medication, find ways to lower your costs. So,
and like I said, if this isn't the business you're in, all right, so you don't know all the nuances, you don't know the, what the laws or the bills are, meaning, bills related to health and pharma, you get to terms like, the donut hole. Well, who understands what the donut hole is? I mean, and then all of a sudden, either your expense is going way up, or it's going way down, and it's hard to explain that, to someone who's not, in on it. Right. Without somebody like you to advise them through it. Says, oh no, this is what happened. It's called the donut hole.
Yep. No, that's one of the most complicated parts of it. And we won't explain it here. We don't have time, but there's other videos we have on our YouTube that actually explain how that Part D donut hole works, and the impact it could have if you have those, more expensive drugs. So, would you recommend senior advisors to your friends for their Medicare planning?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have already. Whether they, took advantage of your services or not, I don't know. But at least, 2 or 3, friends that, around my age that are going through the same thing. And, I certainly did, recommend it. I think the thing is, depending on the individuals, you think you can do it yourself. You're a smart person. I would say, don't be shy or embarrassed to look for help. Just say, hey, I don't get it. I think I'm a smart guy, but I don't get it. And you have a lot of patience, I'll tell you, trying to step people through things that for you is rote, but for people that aren't used to it, not so much. So
right. Now we understand it's complex, even though it's simple simplified for us. We try to simplify it for people that don't do it every day. So. I just, I want to thank you again, Terry, for taking some time today to meet with us and join us on this Coffee with Justin episode. And just gonna, in the notes of the meeting, our contact information will be there for folks out there that are looking for some help with their Medicare planning. And, our model, there's no fee to work with us. So, you can reach out. We're happy to answer any questions you have on Medicare. And if we do help you enroll in a plan, we basically get a commission from the insurance company, and you pay the same premium whether you work directly with the insurance company or you work through a broker. So there's really no cost to you. And we work with all the A-rated insurance companies out there to find the best plans for each individual. So
yeah. Would you mind me making one more comment?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So the one thing to realize with senior advisors is they are independent agents. So they're not tied to any one insurance company. So I have to say that, initially I went through some of the insurance companies' agents, and, obviously there's biased, and, you don't get a good view. They're not going to tell you who their competitor is and what that looks like. So the advantage of working with senior advisors is, they help you pick the best plan regardless of the carrier. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. I appreciate that, Terry. Thank you. And
all right.
And thank you again for joining us, and hope you have a great rest of your day, and cheers.
Yep. Cheers. Yeah.
We'll be in touch. There you go. All right. Take care, Terry.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.